You're listening to Glove Up or Shut Up on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
You're listening to Glove Up or Shut Up on AngryMarks.com with Peter H. and Stevie J. Find them on Twitter at HardcoreCDN and at AngryMarks. And now, for all news, reviews, and interviews in mixed martial arts, it's time for Glove Up or Shut Up from AngryMarks.com.
And welcome everybody to another episode of Glove Up or Shut Up right here at AngryMarks.com. My name is Peter H. I'm joined once again by my co-host from Omaha, Nebraska, Stevie J.
And just to kick off our show, here's a little news tidbit. Takanori Gomi has been released by UFC.
Because he's won how many fights in a row? Lost how many fights in a row?
If he'd won 5 fights in a row, they wouldn't have got him.
Yeah, it's true. I thought maybe he won a fight in the last 3 or 4, but 5? Yeah. I mean, 4 is, if you don't get cut after 4, you have something they see in you, but after 5, it's like, why bother? Like, maybe he'll rediscover himself in another promotion and come back stronger. Who knows?
He'll get booked in Japan. There's little doubt he's got value. He's got name value. He's not going to be an elite fighter in UFC at this point in his career, so it's time for both sides to move on.
Well, we've got UFC and Bellator last weekend. We've got UFC and Bellator this weekend. We have some news, including a big tournament that was announced involving Bellator, but let's start with UFC this past weekend in jolly old Norfolk, Virginia, of all places.
Yes, at the Ted Constant Convocation Center. And that's a very big Navy town, and it was Veterans Day, so all throughout the broadcast we had UFC fighters and UFC employees and UFC fighters in the octagon all saying thank you to the veterans for their service.
Absolutely, and Veterans Day in the States, Remembrance Day up here in Canada, and, you know, it's, we do have, both of, I'm sure you have it as well, Stevie, but I know in my family, like, there's a military, history in my family, and, without their sacrifice and without their service, whether it be in wartime or peacetime, we wouldn't have the freedoms we have today.
No, I am personally 100% behind you with that because my dad and my uncle are both Navy men, so to me, it was even more special for them to have so much focus, and they even had Jay Glazer doing an interview with the commander of the Naval Academy there, so I was thoroughly invested in watching this show, and as it just so happened to turn out, we had a really fun main card, save for 1 or 2 fights, so I think, you know what, I got A+ thumbs up all the way around for this.
There was one camera shot where they had live servicemen watching the fight at the base.
Mm-hmm.
And after one of the fights was a knockout, the reaction shot was priceless.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Was that the one for the Rafael Assunção fight, or was that for the Clay Guida fight?
I think it was the Matt Brown fight.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Why don't we just start there, because something really stupid happened on the live broadcast, and I sent you a message to ask if you had the same problem, because right at the moment, and I mean literally the very second that Matt Brown threw the elbow of death, the Fox Sports 1 broadcast, their satellite feed or something in their communications truck went haywire. So instead of seeing the knockout, the action froze, and when it unfroze, Diego Sanchez was laying on the canvas like he was dead. And it was like, what the hell happened? And then instead of catching up to the live broadcast, they rewound it backwards, trying to catch it again, and then it glitched out a second time, so they gave up on it and went to commercial. It's like, what the blue hell happened? And
so
everybody on Twitter was saying the same thing. Like Dwayne Finley on Twitter was saying, 1 minute he was standing there holding the leg, the next minute he was dead.
So on our Canadian version, the glitch, it paused, and then it rewound itself, and then we had a split screen with half of the fight, and the other split screen was showing the post-fight press conference staring at a desk with no one there. And I'm like, what is going on here?
So it was messed up all around. But the bottom line is, after commercial break, they did indeed show us the elbow of death. And I'm not exaggerating. I know
Nope.
we're prone to hyperbole and prone to superlatives when we talk about fights and fighters and mixed martial arts, but believe me, if you didn't see this when I say this, go look at the replay. Go look at Matt Brown's post-fight speech because they show a replay while he's cutting his promo about the fight, and he threw the absolute 100% God is my witness elbow of death. He hit Diego with this thing. It was over.
And he was pointing at his elbow afterwards, like saying, yeah, that's right, this is the elbow that knocked him out. This elbow, right here, look at it, folks.
And then after that, he immediately went over and checked on him, and he was like, I'm sorry. He really loves Diego Sanchez, and he even said that in his post-fight pro. He's like, I hated doing that. I love Diego. That guy is such a warrior, but it's a fight. We had to fight, and I had to do what I had to do.
It definitely, we had a hot crowd here, so it wasn't as bad as some other crowds we've seen, but that, some cards, a knockout will wake up the crowd. This crowd was pretty hot all night.
I think they were really happy about this one because of the previous fight being, well, not so great. But let's go ahead and talk about the main event now that we've got the co-main event out of the way. We had Dustin Poirier and Anthony Pettis in a lightweight contest that turned into a very bloody affair.
The Crimson Mask analogy is perfect for this one. It was a lot of juice in this one, and I was cheering for Poirier in the second round, maybe the third, and the finish was awkward, to say the least.
Well, what happened was that in the process of attempting to stop Poirier from getting on top of him on the ground, Anthony Pettis popped a rib, and the minute he rolled over and got control of him, Pettis started tapping like, no, I popped this out. I can't fight anymore. I'm screwed.
And it's not like a finger you can pop back in and continue the fight. This is like, he was in the middle of a transition, and it's over. We'll be right back after this. Like, what the hell?
It was kind of an awkward ending, but let's not mince words about it. Poirier was beating that ass, so this was going the same way, whether it was stopped for a rib injury or not, because the way they actually described it during the broadcast was priceless. They were like, Poirier in the white trunks. Well, they were white at the beginning of this fight. I don't know what color they are now.
I'd say a reddish brown.
Brown, maybe even a little pink, but they were definitely not white anymore because he opened up Pettis in so many different ways. In fact, at one point, they stopped the fight, not because they were going to wave it off, but just to wipe the blood out of his face to make sure he could still see.
And the doctor said, is he good? Is he good? And the doctor was, yep, he's fine. Like, the blood went right away, and I was worried it was getting into his eyes a little bit, but you got to credit the medical teams there to stop the cut and allow him to continue.
The fun part is early in the first round when they started getting bloody and everybody was going for takedowns and submissions, nobody could hang on to each other because it was like slip and slide. It's like, no, you're slipping on that. That's blood and sweat. You're not hanging on to anything.
Yeah, he's got his neck. No, he doesn't.
Right. So this was a very fun fight to watch. If you love fighting, Poirier and Pettis was your kind of fight and your kind of night. But unfortunately for Pettis, that is another loss, and I hate to say I told you so, Peter, but Anthony Pettis in 2017 is not the guy he used to be.
Speaking of someone who's not who they used to be, Andrei Arlovsky?
That fight was weird. The whole time I'm watching it, I'm waiting for Junior Albini to do something. I keep going, he has a glass jaw. You can knock him out. Just do something. Just bull rush him. Just pin him against the fence and start unloading. If you take a shot, you'll knock him out with the return shot. Just go for broke. And all this time, during this whole fight, Arlovsky kept circling, jabbing, circling, hooking, circling, throw a body, throw a leg kick, circle, jab, circle. It's like, he's outworking you, Albini. How is he doing this? Just get in there and nail that chin. And he never did. And my wife's watching the fights with me, and she starts noticing that there's a little jiggle to Junior Albini, and she's like, he's not big country, he's little country.
Well, these are two big boys. There's no way around it. it's when you see a fight like this and you're thinking this is the same guy who was the champ at one point. You're like, he shouldn't be fighting this. He shouldn't be winning this fight. Yet he is. And he did win the fight, and not by a close margin. I mean, it was 30-27, 30-27, and 29-28. So it's like, okay.
All I can say is Junior Albini crapped the bed. This was his moment to shine, and he flunked. I'm
scared to ask you this, Stevie, because it's going to be 2018 in a couple of months here. Who the hell does Arlovsky fight next in the UFC?
I don't know. In fact, I was kind of getting the impression from his interview that this might be it for him.
If they offer him a quality opponent and offer him a decent paycheck, he'll be there.
Probably, but I don't think we have to worry about that with Matt Brown. He 99% is done. He even said that his teammates were trying to tell him to think about it, and he's like, well, they can say what they want, but at the end of the day, it's up to me. Which kind of tells me Matt Brown is retiring, but we'll wait and see.
He'd make a hell of a coach.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about Caesar and Nate.
This is another one where, like I said, there were two fights on the main card that didn't quite deliver. Yeah. And Caesar Fajea and Nate Marquardt is in that category because what I said to you as we were watching it was the right man won, but nobody cares because Caesar Fajea was working harder, so 2 of the 3 judges gave the decision to him and 1 gave it to Marquardt. But, son of a gun, how do you not beat the bricks off Nate Marquardt at this point? It's like the same thing we just said about Albini and Arlovsky. It's like, Mutaj, you won, so good for you, but you should have just plowed your way through him. You should have destroyed him and looked like $1 million, and instead you went out there and had a pitter-pat fight with Nate Marquardt, and nobody cares now.
I almost wanted to write, never leave it to the judges, but, I didn't want to be too sarcastic, so I did type in the message, I wrote never, ... and then I deleted the message because I know you knew I was going with this.
Exactly. But at least the other 2 fights on the main card were pretty good because we had Rafael Assunção knocking out Matt Lopez in a minute 50 of the 3rd round. It was a very nice, very highlight reel worthy finish, and Assunção needed it because this fight was a little bit of a mess coming in with Lopez missing weight by 2.5 pounds. So you didn't want it to go to the judges, and you didn't want Lopez to win. You wanted Assunção to go out there and look good and get a finish, and he did.
Took the 3rd round, a minute 50 to do it, though.
Right. He was feeling him out that whole time. Like, he was giving Lopez the respect he deserves, and then finally he was just like, I've had enough of this. I'm going to kill this fucker.
Well, let's talk about Clay Guida and Joe Lozon. And if you missed it, I don't blame you. 67 seconds, Stevie.
Yeah, Clay Guida hurt Lozon very early in this fight, and Lozon was doing his best to recover, and Guida got him to the ground and started unloading with the hammer fist and the ground and pound, and you could just see Joe Lozon covering up and not fighting back, and there were like 4 or 5 more shots than were really necessary before the referee stepped in, and that's not Clay Guida's fault. As we always say, the fighter's business is to fight until it's stopped, and nobody stopped him, but Lozon took a few unnecessary shots because of this referee.
That is true. The referee, not his best night, but I want to raise a point that was mentioned in the post-fight comments here. This is the last fight on Clay's contract.
Yeah, which was very interesting because this crowd was big time behind Clay Guida. They were chanting for him when he got the finish. They were chanting for him during the post-fight interview, and he even encouraged them to do it some more. He's like, if you want me to stay in UFC and finish my career in UFC, let Dana White hear it. Chant my name, let him hear it. And they started chanting it even louder.
Yeah, it was, the Energizer Bunny wins the fight in less than 2 minutes.
Honestly, would you not renew his contract after that performance? Would you let that guy go to Bellator? I wouldn't.
I wouldn't give him a 7-fight contract. I might give him a 3-fight contract.
I'd put some performance incentives in there. I'd say, like, oh, keep doing that, and we'll give you some nice, healthy bonuses.
All right. Is there anything on the prelims that caught your eye? Because I do see a few things on my list.
Well, we have a lot of decisions leading
Yeah.
up to the main card, so that's why I said the main card is your excitement of the night, and the rest of it you kind of got to be a hardcore fight fan to get into. So the one thing that I will talk about, and it's probably in your notes too, is the absolute wackiness we had with Sean Strickland and Court McGee, because at the end of this fight, and I was sure that Strickland had won watching this fight 2-1. I only gave Court McGee the third round. And then Bruce Buffer announces 29-29, 29-29. This fight is a majority draw. And I went, what? And then I had somewhere to be and something to do, so I missed the fights on FS1. And when I came back later for the main card, I saw that somehow the scores had been changed and Strickland actually won.
Yeah, it was confusing, but
apparently the judges don't know how to add 10 and 9 together. Simple math.
That's why they don't want to do 10-8. John Dodson. What the hell happened?
I think he lost a little bit of pep in his step.
It was not his... I mean, maybe it was a bad night. A bad night would be losing a fight 2-1. Maybe a judge scores all three for your opponent. When you get a split decision, and one judge saw you win all 3 rounds, the other 2 saw the other... Like, what the hell? 30-27, 30-27, and 27-30 for the winner, Marin Moraes.
All right, well, you're judge number 4, I'm judge number 5. Who do you score it for? Come on, don't be indecisive.
No, I have Moraes winning it, but...
Do you have it 2-1 or 3-0?
Yeah, I have 2-1.
Okay, so you and I both scored it 29-28, so we're 4 out of 5 judges, and the one judge is a fucking idiot.
Or he can't add.
No, I don't think this is the same problem we had with Strickland and McGee. I think one judge just somehow believes Dodson won all 3 rounds, and that's inconceivable. To quote the great Wallace Shawn, that's inconceivable.
Oh, Lord. If you don't know that movie, folks, look it up.
Andre the Giant's in it. Go watch it.
Absolutely. Sage Northcutt won unanimous decision. Nina Arsenault beat Angela Hill by unanimous decision. Tatiana Suarez beat Vivian Pereira by unanimous decision.
That should have been a little more lopsided. Suarez beat that ass.
Well, one judge said 30-26, so...
I think 30-25 could have been warranted.
Now, Collier for Tina, Collier wins by unanimous decision, but Robertson and Stewart kicked off the fight pass, and we saw a rear naked choke at 3:41.
Yeah, that is a very quality win for Roberson, who comes in off of Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, where he knocked out Ryan Spann, and now he wins his official UFC debut and improves to 6-0. So I'd say Roberson is a guy to keep your eye on in the middleweight division.
All right, so let's move on to the show for Bellator 187 in Dublin, Ireland.
Boy.
Boy.
Yeah, I'm laughing and you're going, oh boy, because the story of Bellator is Conor McGregor.
Hashtag under siege. I just don't know what he was thinking, because I was at work for this show, and my Twitter exploded, and I thought people were pranking me, saying Conor's in Bellator. I'm like, no, he's not. They sent the video. I'm like, that's not, it is him. Okay, he did it once. He did it a second time. I'm like, someone better stop him. And the end result of this, and we're going to get into the shenanigans in a second, which is a great word to describe what happened. He's been pulled from this next fight in UFC.
Yeah, UFC 219, where he was probably going to defend the lightweight title. They don't want him there anymore until this is resolved.
Doesn't Colby Covington's actions seem pale in comparison to what Conor did?
Kind of, yes, but let's go ahead and break this down, since this was the opening fight of the Spike TV broadcast, which was tape delayed, which is why the word got out about it. And because the word got out about it, people tuned in just to see what Conor did. So the first quarter hour of the show, did over 1 million viewers, and the average for the show was 600,000. So people tuned in to see Connor and tuned right back out.
Wow. So, I forget which one was the first incident because, I mean, I was delayed in the response and I was getting both videos at once, so I'm not sure which was the first incident.
Alright, well let me break it down for you. Charlie Ward is a straight blast gym fighter from, Connor's team there in Ireland. So, Connor's there to support him and the other SBG fighters like Sinead Kavanagh. So, Charlie is having a fun back and forth fight with John Redmond, and with 1 second left to go in the first round, Ward knocks Redmond out cold and the ref waves it off. And Connor is ecstatic and he can't help himself, and he runs to jump the cage, and Mark Goddard gets in his way and says, "No, don't you get in here." And Connor slaps him and gets in the cage anyway. And officials push him out, and they're like, no, you get out of here. You're not a corner man. You're not officially part of this fight. You don't have any business being in here. And Connor's like, screw that. And he runs back a second time, gets in the cage again, gives Charlie Ward a big hug, celebrates with him, and then they finally get him out of there.
At first, the video looks like some crazed fan jumped the gate and the referee tried to stop him, and he swatted at him, and I'm like, okay, that's a fine. Wait, that's Connor. Yeah. Okay, now they're getting him out. Okay, and then he runs in for the big hug, and I'm like, okay, now this is getting ridiculous. Where's the security? Where's the commission? But that's the thing. There's no commission in Ireland. They had to bring in a commission from overseas to commission this card.
Yeah, I believe they used the Mohegan Sun Tribal Authority Commission to oversee the event, and Bellator had a local representative on site. So yeah, there was not an athletic commission in charge other than what Bellator brought to the dance. So this became Bellator's headache, because what do you do with Connor in Dublin? He's nuts. It's his teammate. The guy has more money than God and thinks he can get away with anything. What are you going to do about him?
Here's a better question. What do you think Dana White's reaction was?
He was like, "You asshole, you just gave Bellator MMA free publicity. Do you know we're competing with them? What the fuck were you doing?"
See, I had more of a low-key approach. It'd be like someone calls him on the phone, because he's not getting a text for this. He's getting the call. And just the words of, "Did you hear what Connor did?" And I'm picturing Dana White saying, "Oh fuck, what now? Like, what did he do?"
Or the animated gif of the guy bashing his head into the desk over and over again. That would be Dana. He'd be sitting at his desk like, "Not again, not Connor again."
Well, at least he's not thinking, is it a drug test? Because he already had that news, and we'll get there in a minute.
Oh, yes.
But going back to the Bellator card, Stevie, let's go to the top now that we got the Connor shenanigans out of the way. Describe the main event.
We had AJ McKee, undefeated at featherweight, a phenom of the division. Father Antonio McKee, teammate Kevin Ferguson, a.k.a. Baby Slice. So we had multiple members of the same teams on this card. And in this case, AJ McKee in the main event from the Body Shop team out there in California. He's expected to win, but Brian Moore is the local fighter from Dublin, nicknamed the Pikeman. And Brian Moore decides, you know what? I'm not going to go out here and just roll over for this guy. I'm going to scrap. I'm going to scrap with everything I have. I'm going to bloody him up a little bit. I'm going to make him earn this. He's going to have to go through me. He's not just going to cakewalk me. So It takes AJ McKee until the third round to finally wear down Brian Moore and sink in a rear naked choke and get the win. But up to that point, it was back and forth. You might have been even able to score it a round apiece.
Now, why was this a technical submission?
Well, that's because I don't believe Brian Moore ever tapped. I think he just went out.
Oof. I mean, we talked about this last week with Bisping, and how some people just either get caught quickly and they have to pass out because they don't have enough time to tap out. And there's that mentality of being too tough to tap. I mean, if you're in a submission and you're screwed basically, you have no way to get out and there's lots of time, rather than like lose consciousness, there's no shame in tapping out.
No, there's never shame in tapping out. It's better to tap out than to suffer some sort of injury, whether it's a brain hemorrhage or a broken arm or a torn shoulder. You know what? Just tap.
So, I mean, AJ McKee, I'm surprised it took him to the third round, but it's not a shocker. Maybe he was toying with him, not sure, but
No, he
AJ
wasn't
McKee,
toying. There was no way he was toying with him because in the first round, he did drop more, like 30 seconds into the round, and then got cut open by an elbow when he tried to take him down. So it's not like he wasn't going out there trying to finish. It's just Moore put up a good fight and actually stuffed a few takedowns in the second round. So I feel like, you know what, it was a fight that was up for grabs going into the third round, and then AJ McKee just finally took over and sunk that arm in under the chin.
Now this co-main event with Sinead Kavanagh and Maria Casanova. Once again, don't blink.
No, but this needed to happen because Kavanagh is one of the local popular fighters, like I said, a straight blast gym fighter, and Maria Casanova had an absolutely awful record. Depending on who you checked, she was either 2-4-1 or 3-5-1. So, by no account should she be going out there and beating the co-main eventer of the show. So, Kavanagh just killed her with a hand, and that was it. The fight was over.
Baby Slice and Fred Freeman.
Mm-hmm. Another case where the star that you brought in is going to win because he's an attraction to the fight fans in Europe. They've been bringing him over for shows in London and Ireland, and they basically are playing off who his dad was and the fact that his dad was a famous fighter, and they're trying to build up his son as a star. So they put him in there with a guy who was 0-1, I believe, and Ferguson is 1-1. So this is what you would expect, but it was honestly very impressive because you would think of anybody that's the son of Kimbo, you would think of him as a brawler, right? You wouldn't think of him as a technician because his dad was a brawler. But this was a very technical finish by Kevin Ferguson. He took him down, worked for the rear naked choke, and submitted him. So I'd say Ferguson is a well-rounded fighter who's only getting better.
Did he show you, like, a lot here in this short fight? I mean, it's hard to really gauge his progress with a fight that doesn't go into the second round.
I actually say yes, because this is the third time I've seen him fight now, and in each fight he's looked like a better, more complete fighter. So the stuff he's doing with the body shop is making him better. It's working.
Well, I mean, I agree with that. It's for me, it's still a small sample size. I need to see him, have a couple more fights under his belt. I mean, I want to see him more. I want to see him. I mean, if he wins all his fights in less than a round, good for him, but I want to see him have a war or two,
No, well, he didn't win all his fights in under a round. He's 2-1. That's what I'm trying to tell you. In his first fight, he got guillotine choked because he was inexperienced and didn't know how to defend himself on the ground. His next fight, he won by TKO, and his next fight, he won by submission. So you can see each part of his game improving. Like, first he improved his defense on the ground, then he improved his striking with his hands, and now he's starting to learn how to get submissions of his own. So you are seeing growth in each and every fight.
So who does he fight next?
Well, you probably want to keep carrying him along like you are right now by giving him fighters with less experience and let him work his way up. Don't give him anybody that's like 10-5 or 8-2. Give him people that are 1-1 or 2-1 or 1-2. Just take your time. If you're going to make him a star, give him guys that he can be competitive with but beat. Peter?
I'm still here. You still there?
Yeah, I said all I had to say.
Okay, sorry. You dropped off there for a second. Okay, let's move on to the next fight then. We've got, we already talked about Charlie Ward.
They didn't air Redmond and Sergio de Jesus. That didn't air.
Yeah. As far as the other prelims, I mean, these are all local fights, so we should move on to the news. And stay with Bellator. We've got a tournament, Stevie.
Yes, 8-man tournament, heavyweight Grand Prix, spread out across the entirety of 2018 until they whittle it down to one man. And that one man will be the new Bellator heavyweight champion.
4 heavyweights, 4 light heavyweights, and this is a Grand Prix, all right. And some of these names, hell, all of these names, like there's no easy fight here.
Well, you say 4 light heavyweights, but I'm going to correct you there because everybody is fighting at heavyweight no matter what weight you know them from. Like Chael Sonnen, he's fighting at heavyweight. Whatever weight class you think he is, he's fighting at heavyweight. Same goes for Ryan Bader. I mean, he probably cuts to make it to light heavyweight anyway, so all he has to do to fight at heavyweight is not cut.
Okay, but does he drop the strap?
No, I don't see any reason he would, because it's a tournament outside of his weight class, so let him do what he wants, and if he loses and he's out of the tournament, he goes back to defending the title.
Okay, so we've got Fedor Emelianenko, we've got Frank Mir, we've got Ryan Bader, Chael Sonnen, King Mo, Quentin Rampage Jackson,
Big Country,
and oh crap, I can't think of the 8th name now. I'm drawing a blank. Hold on 1 second here. Crap, I had it written down too, and I didn't circle the 8th name.
I will run it down for you. The 8 names: Frank Mir, King Mo, Chael Sonnen, Matt Mitrione, Big Country, Fedor, Quentin, and Bader.
Mitrione's the name that I forgot. Yes, of course, Mitrione. And they've already announced one fight. It's been signed by both parties. We're just waiting for the official announcement by the promotion. But in April, we're going to get Frank Mir and Fedor.
Mm-hmm.
That interesting.
Well,
I mean, I know
that's the earliest they can use Frank Mir because he's still on suspension.
But I mean, I knew he wouldn't get Mitrione, but I was hoping for Fedor and Sonnen.
I'm just glad they didn't do the obvious thing and do a rematch between Mir and Big Country.
Oh God, no. No, we don't need that.
No, and I was there for that fight, so no, we don't.
Although it would have been funny to see Fedor and Rampage or Fedor and King Mo in a first round match.
They could still happen. They could meet in the quarters of the semis.
Yeah, absolutely. But Fedor of old is not the same, but the Emperor shall rise again.
I don't think so. I don't think Fedor is winning this tournament. Even Fedor said, quote, "only if God lets me," unquote.
Oh, he's Russian, U.S. judges, just, never mind. As far as Bellator though, this is gonna bring in a lot of the casual fans. What do you think?
It may, but I don't care about that. I just want them to crown a heavyweight champion because we've been without one for quite some time now.
I can't believe I'm about to say this. I mean, I was thinking all week about this since it was announced, but Stevie, we have someone who is signed now to Bellator that we used to talk about when I was the co-host on Thursday Night AMP.
That's right.
Jack Swagger, the All-American American.
Under his real name, Jake Hager.
Oh, man. And he's still doing the We the People gimmick when he signed his contract, apparently. I saw the video.
Yeah. Well, he's possibly an alternate for this Grand Prix because he'll be at heavyweight. I mean, the guy is, and I've met him, so I can actually say this. The guy is monstrously big. It's deceptive because when he was wrestling in WWE, it's the land of giants where everybody is like 6'8" and 300 pounds. So you forget that he's like 6'8" and 280 himself. You know, he's not a small chunk of change. So if they need a heavyweight as an alternate, enter Jack Swagger.
He seems like humble, I guess, is the best way to be because that's the attitude you should have. But if he's an alternate to this tournament, oh boy, that is one hell of an opening match if he has to fight.
That's true. Which is why the more likely scenario is that they'll probably match him up with somebody, again, giving him some chance to actually win and get his career rolling, because I don't think they want to feed him to the Sharks.
No, and that tournament's full of Sharks.
That is true. Very true.
Let's see, what else we have to talk about? Oh, do you remember Ryzen? Fighting Federation?
Yes, indeed. What about it?
Crow Cop is returning and is fighting Kosaka on the show on December 31st.
Well, that's probably about the only place he can fight anymore, considering he got flagged by USADA.
Yeah. I mean, either that or like some Indian reservations, but even those are regulated now. So, I'm just not sure I want to see Crow Cop fight anymore. I mean, he's at that age now where, I mean, one good shot, I don't know. I mean, he's still prominent, but like he still looks like a fighter. But man, I worry about his head sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about that before. I have this one circled, Stevie. Why don't you talk about what happened to Bellator 188? Because we have some injury news to talk about.
Well, yes, Patricio Pitbull suffered a knee injury before his title fight, where he was supposed to defend against Daniel Feischl. The two of them previously met at Bellator 138 in St. Louis, which was headlined, as you will recall, because I was there and you were watching it at home, Kimbo and Ken.
Yep. Kimbo and Ken. Oh, that brings me back.
Yeah, and that was a hell of a featherweight contest they had that night because, you know, everybody was there to see the two heavyweights slug it out, but they made a memorable impression because in the first round, Feischl clipped him, and with seconds left to go on the first round, he was trying to finish the fight and got waved off and it couldn't continue, but if he'd had like anywhere from 3 to 5 more seconds, he would have pounded out a victory. And then 32 seconds into the second round, Pitbull returned the favor, dropped him cold, and the fight was over. So those two had a hell of a war, and I was really looking forward to the rematch because Feischl had told me, I learned from my mistake in that fight. I've beaten all the best guys since that time, which arguably he has. He's won 4 in a row against top names in the featherweight division like Teixeira and Sanchez. So he earned his way back to this fight, but unfortunately with Pitbull getting injured, it's not going to happen. Not now anyway, maybe later.
So this wasn't the only injury news this week. We saw a main event change in UFC with, I believe it was Frankie Edgar, who's been pulled against his fight against Max Holloway.
Yep, that title fight is scratched, and so too is a other fight in that same weight class.
Oh, it's, cause I thought you were going to say they replaced, Edgar with Jose Aldo.
No, yeah, they might, I think they did do that, but there was another fight that got scratched that you were not talking about.
Trying to remember. Who is it?
I'll have it for you in a second here.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank, cause I remember we went through so many different injuries in a short amount of time, they all kind of blended together. But I do know they replaced the Edgar fight with Aldo rematching Holloway. I mean, that's a smart fight. I mean, Aldo's probably over the moon excited that he's going to get a rematch, but boy, that's, out of the fire into the oven. It's not an easy opponent, but he's done it before, so I mean, he might do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, I'm drawing a real blank on this one too. Let's see.
Dominic Cruz.
Yes, Dominic Cruz. I just saw it too, yeah. Dominic Cruz, he's out of his fight there, and that's a shame. I mean, he was off so long, and now he's another injury.
Mm-hmm.
Started building himself up, got beat by Garbrandt. You know, it's tough, but if anyone comes back stronger and better, it's Cruz. He's showing it.
Yeah. Sucks to have a broken arm, though.
You know what also sucks?
What?
Failing a drug test?
Yeah, way to go, Anderson.
I said to a few friends at work, I hope it's not for the same reason the first test failed.
Is normal.
I mean, for those who don't remember, Anderson Silva, he failed the test for a what was it, a defective sexual stimulant?
A blue vial.
A blue vial.
That was supposed to increase his manhood.
But this test is an out-of-competition test he failed for. Technically, it's his first failure, but it's really his second. and he was notified by USADA, so his fight in China against Kelvin Gastelum has been scratched, and Kelvin's new opponent is
the former middleweight champion.
And the odds have actually Bisping as an underdog going into this fight.
Yeah, because I think it's a little too soon for Bisping to be coming back for another fight after the way he got finished by George St. Pierre.
So, just to peel back the curtain a little bit, I was in the car going home that day that Anderson Silva got popped for the drug test. And I was cursing a little bit. Big surprise. And I just blurted out, great, who is Kelvin going to fight in China now? And my wife just, as she's driving, he'd probably fight Bisping. And I'm like, you can't, wait a minute. Nah, I can't, it's too soon. And then a week later, it's like, honey, you were right. About what? Bisping. Told you. I'm like, it's not how this works. It's just so random. It's like, you have to think, who can we get with a Chinese work visa in short notice? Bisping. Those things have if you have a fight visa, it's easy for someone to get the paperwork if they've already been there before.
Mm-hmm.
So you get someone on short notice. Bisping has that. He's the weight class. He's former middleweight champ. He's a contender. Why not? It makes sense on paper. In reality,
it is way too soon for Bisping to come back.
Oh my god. No. There's a show in London in March. And Bisping, on the same day that Jack Swagger signed with Bellator, Bisping came out and said, the show in London is my last fight.
Mm-hmm.
So why did he say that after signing the paperwork to fight Kelvin?
That's a good question, and I don't have an answer for you.
Maybe he decided that his retirement, maybe he made the retirement decision after he signed the paperwork. I don't know. I wasn't there, but if he beats Kelvin, what the fuck do you put him in front of in London?
Maybe a rematch for the title?
So, it's a loser leaves town match, because if GSP beats... No, wait, that'd be March. He wouldn't fight for the title. GSP's got a interim title, unification match to fight.
Robert Whittaker.
Yeah.
But let's say he unifies the belts. Maybe Bisping gets a chance at that unified title.
No, it's too soon. The Whittaker GSP fight's slated for early 2018, isn't it?
I don't know. I'm throwing out weird scenarios because this is already a weird scenario. Maybe you get GSP to return for London on short notice. I don't know.
No,
Look, it's already wacky. You can't make it any wackier, so.
Triple threat match.
No, that's not going to be sanctioned by any commission, no matter how funny you're trying to be.
Yeah, I know. It's just no.
Except in Russia. They've done tag teams in Russia.
They've done a lot of things in Russia we can't mention on this show.
That's true.
Boy,
Did
oh
you
boy.
know that Brandon Halsey has been fighting over there since he left Bellator?
Really?
Yeah, because I was interviewing John Salter last week, and I was trying to figure out what the hell Brandon Halsey had been doing since he got choked out, and he went to M1 Challenge.
Huh. Well, I mean, if they're paying him.
Yeah, well, I guess they must be paying him pretty good, because he had a 3-fight losing streak, and then moved up to light heavyweight, and finally won a fight.
Well, going back to UFC, guess who OSP's next opponent's gonna be?
You tell me.
Iri Latifi.
Well, he did ask for that fight.
I know, but that's a fight that I think he wins.
I think that's probably why he called Iri Latifi out, probably because he thinks he can beat that ass.
Well, what about Juliana Lima and Randa Marcos for UFC Fox 27?
I think that's a pretty good fight.
That's a good fight. I'm very curious to see who wins that one, because it could go, right now it could go either way, and that might change, but...
I would favor Lima.
Stevie, can I borrow $3,000?
No.
Damn it. You can bid on Dustin Poirier's UFC fight gear.
The ones he wore in that fight with Pettis?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know if I'd want those. That's not sanitary. That's not clean.
Frame that shit.
Yeah, but even under the frame, it might start to smell after a while.
if you sanitize it, you destroy the blood sample.
I know that you're in a catch-22 there. You sanitize it, then it's not worth anything. But if you don't sanitize it, it's not safe.
Did you hear who wants to fight Conor McGregor next?
I've heard a lot of people, but I believe you're talking about a professional boxer.
Oscar De La Hoya, one of the greats.
Yeah, but that's not smart. De La Hoya would probably lose that fight. He's a little too old. He's a little too out of shape. This is not smart.
I'm not looking forward to that one.
No.
If it will never happen, but still, it's like,
Hey, Golden Boy, stick to promotion.
Here's a fight I want to see again, or on my calendar. It's UFC St. Louis, which isn't too far from you, is it?
About 6-hour drive.
Vitor Belfort and Uriah Hall.
No, Belfort needs to be done.
I saw that and I was like, oh, Stevie's gonna love that one.
No. Well, we should probably get to the upcoming 2 cards before we run out of time, because we're getting short on it right now.
We are getting short on time. There are just a couple more fight announcements real quick here. Jessica Evil Eyes, also on that St. Louis card, she's fighting Kalinja Faria. And Caitlin Vieira's fight against GDR is canceled because GDR is out with an injury.
Alright.
So that sucks for GDR. She's a great fighter and I hope to see her back in the cage soon.
Indeed.
Alright, so let's talk about this weekend's events. Let's start with Bellator, I believe is where you wanted to start. So it's in Tel Aviv, Israel, Bellator 188.
Yes, the new main event with Pitbull being pulled from the card is Lahat versus Jeremiah Labiano, to which your reaction was, who?
I'll admit, I had to really do my research on this one after you told me about the fight, and as best I can tell, it's a fight that the hometown fans will love if there's a victory here.
That's right, because Lahat is from Israel, served in the Israeli Defense Forces, and was actually in UFC for a while, and he had to, fly in, take a fight, and fly back and continue his military service while he was in UFC, so he kind of became a superstar because of that. He's definitely going to be the hometown favorite here, and he's got a much better chance of winning than Labiano, because Labiano's kind of an also-ran. He's 11-5, doesn't really have any big notable wins, whereas Lahat, as I talked about, he's got that UFC experience, and he's fighting in his home country, and he's beat some legitimate quality guys like Steven Seiler and Nicholas Bastrom and Scott Cleave, so he needs to go out there and put on a show for the hometown fans.
And I will say Labiano loves his tattoos.
That's true. He's got quite a few. And the co-main event for this one will be John Salter, who I previously mentioned. He's on a 6-fight win streak. He'll be looking for number 7 against Jason the Assassin Radcliffe. That's an interesting nickname for a guy that's 10-6. I expect Salter to wax that ass.
All right. What about Denise Kilholtz and Jessica Middleton?
Well, Denise is a kickboxer who has a great record in that sport, but she's 0-1 in mixed martial arts, so they are probably looking to set her up here with Jessica Million Hits Middleton, who is 2-2. They probably figure that Keelholtz will go out there, strike her at range, use those kickboxing skills that won her a title, and finish Jessica Middleton, and I expect the same.
Well, the thing about Middleton, she's 4 inches taller. So,
yeah,
I mean,
that doesn't matter in kickboxing when you're striking with your feet.
No, I know. I was going to say the head kick is definitely going to be utilized here.
Oh, yeah. Keelholtz, if she's smart, stays at range and throws kicks all day.
If she's smart.
If she's smart. Otherwise, she'll be 0-2.
All right. Is there anything else on this card? Because it has a lot of local talent on it.
Yeah, we won't even talk about the prelims. Just one other fight on the main card, and that's Haim Ghazali, who's also from Israel, fighting Arsen Fajtovic, and I expect Ghazali to win that fight as well.
So we got a fight card in Israel with Bellator, and now we're going to go to UFC 121 in Sydney, Australia.
That is correct. Main evented by Fabricio Werdum versus Marcin Tybura.
The main event, two big boys here, especially Tybura, who usually tips the scale around 250, 252.
Oh yeah. And Werdum has paid his respect to Tybura and said, you know what, he may not be as famous as me, he may not be the former champion like me, but any heavyweight is dangerous. And I think I would agree with that, considering Tybura has in straight fights knocked out Victor Pesta, knocked out Luis Enrique, and beat the aforementioned Andrei Arlovsky by decision. So I would take Tybura seriously too if I was Werdum, but I'll still pick Werdum to win.
Oh yeah. No, Werdum is, his power in his fists is just insane right now.
And you do not want to go to the ground with this guy. He will make your life miserable. He is a black belt with serious jiu-jitsu skills as a heavyweight.
Now we got Jessica Rose Clark and Beck Rawlings in the co-main event.
I always love seeing Beck Rawlings, or as she used to be known, Rowdy Beck Hyatt back in her Invicta days. She doesn't always win, but she is always fun to watch. So I don't even know what the odds are here. I'm just going to go ahead and pick Beck because I like Beck and I want to see her get a win.
Can I pick the Aussie in this fight?
Sure.
They're both Aussie. I like Rawlings in this fight as well, but I want to hear the crowd go Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
Oi, oi, oi. Yes, they will. You know they will. So next we got the Dirty Bird Tim Means coming off a decision win over Alex Garcia, taking on Bilal, remember the name, Muhammad.
Who's the rapper who did that song?
I believe you're talking about Mano.
Yes. I kind of have Muhammad as an upset here.
Hi, Chaos.
My cat's doing a guest appearance on Glow Up for Shut Up. The thing about Muhammad, he's 5'11", Tim Means 6'2". I mean, I have Muhammad winning an upset, but it's not much of an upset if you consider his record.
No, Bilal has a fantastic record. He is 12-2, and considering the guys he's beaten, like Jordan Mean and Randy Brown, I feel like he's live to this fight. Even if he is a dog, I would give him a great chance against Tim Means, especially with the amount of wear and tear that the Dirty Bird has had. I mean, 27-8-1. He's taken a few lumps.
Jake Matthews and Boran Velikovic. I'm not sure who to pick in this one. I'm a little torn here.
Well, you wouldn't want to favor Matthews immediately because he's lost his last two fights. He took TKO to Kevin Lee, lost a split decision to Holbrook, but I feel like Velocevic is also an unknown factor at this point because he went to a draw with Michael Graves, lost to Sultan Aliyev, got a KO win over Nico Musoki, and then lost the decision to Darren Till. So there's no real obvious favor in this one, but I guess for that reason, I'll just go with Jake Matthews for one reason and one reason only. Hometown, home country fighter.
Exactly. Daniel Kelly and Elias Teradou. We saw him in UFC Fight Night Ottawa last year.
That's right. Looking at this one, I will want to favor Teodoro because I think he's the better fighter overall, but once again, Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi. I'll go with Dan Kelly.
I'm gonna go with the Canadian here just because the Aussies can't win every fight.
Yeah, I know, but Dan Kelly seems to have his best performances there.
Alright, we've got another Aussie against, Brazil, New Zealand is what I meant to say. Alex Volkanovski against Shane Young.
Now this one I think is obvious. I don't care whether he's the Aussie or not, because Volkanovski is 15-1. That says it all.
The prelims have one fight here, Stevie, that has been circled on my calendar since it was first announced.
Will Brooks and Nick Lentz.
They should just tear the crap out of each other and just rock 'em, sock 'em.
I hope so. That would be fun. I want the quality of fight that back in the day I saw Nick Lentz have an absolute barn burner of a fight. I'm trying to remember which one it was because he's been around forever and ever, but I want to see a fight like Nick Lentz and Rafael Oliveira, I think is the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I think you're right, yeah.
That went all 3 rounds and was a hell of a fight.
And Will Brooks likes to throw down, so
Mm-hmm.
I am curious to see who wins this one, and Nick Lentz has had a career revival over the last few fights of his, so boy, I'm going to go with Brooks, and I really have a hard time picking against Lentz, but I'm going to.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Brooks as well. Just, again, wear and tear here, because at 27-8-2 with 1 no contest, Nick Lentz has been around a long time.
All right, so that's going to do it for Glow Up or Shut Up this week. Stevie, what's on tap for Thursday Night AMP?
Survivor Series, my friend.
Is that this weekend?
Yes.
Holy crap, it just came in. Wow, that was fast. Okay. Survivor Series this weekend, we got the big 5-on-5 match, and a recent addition, if you watched this episode of this past week's episode of Raw. There, I said it. Mm-hmm. Alright, so for Stevie J, I'm Peter H, the Hardcore Canadian. Thanks for listening, and as I always say, never leave it to the judges. Good night, everybody.
See ya.